Alright guys, the first thing I want to say is that if I sound a bit different, it's because I've got a flu and I've got a bad sore throat. So hopefully it doesn't make me sound too off and maybe even make me sound better. Who knows? Now I have to admit that when it comes to learning about prehistoric life in general, I'm a real lazy bum. I mean, I'm happy to read papers on the exciting stuff like anatomy, physiology, lifestyle, and the like. But when it comes to things like geography and timescales and eras, sometimes you just need the right motivation to expand your interests, and today's dinosaur has started to do that for me. Now more of that later. This is RT, the PNSO Sinoceratops, and it comes right on the heels of their Pachyrhinosaurus. If you've seen that review of the PNSO Pachyrhinosaurus, you know that PNSO seems to have refined the creation of Centrosaurines to a fine art. It's nice that a Chinese company is doing a dinosaur unique to China, just as they did with their Tuojiangsaurus. Now, PNSO has in fact done an RT before, this cute, adorable baby. And I like that PNSO retains the names for their iterations of the same species, so we are to believe that years have passed since our last review on this little guy who has grown up to this. Now you can see the chubby baby fat has been shed, and in place there is only thick, powerful muscle. In fact, this is one stocky and hefty dinosaur, very similar to the PNSO Pachyrhinosaurus. The Sinoceratops holotype skull is estimated to be about 180 centimeters. That's 6 feet long, one of the largest Centrosaurine skulls ever. So that body better be beefy. Now I absolutely love the way this pose seems to accentuate that strength and power. Now PNSO is taking the actual length of Sinoceratops to be 7 meters. I had some difficulty measuring this with string because of the three-dimensionality of the pose, and I had to do it alone, so I might be off fumbling with the string. But I estimate 18.5 centimeters, making this 1:37 scale, so it's a larger scale than the Pachyrhino or the Pachyrhino. And it's not surprising when you consider that while Pachyrhinosaurus is about 8 meters and this 7 meters, the models are about the same size. Now, the head. In Sinoceratops, there are at least 10 robust anteriorly curved epiparietals, which are more prominent medially than laterally. And according to Xu Xing, in his 2010 paper, the squamosal has at least 2 straight horn-like processes, although this double-pronged one might be creative license, as I didn't see this in the paper. And actually I wish that that paper had more pictures and illustrations, but I like that you can actually see the beginnings of this in the baby. And it's believable how this could eventually become this. And on the midline ramus, you can barely make out some bumps, which there should be. And here's of course the nasal horn. So that's a lot of horns. Still, Sinoceratops can't claim title for the horniest dinosaur, as that virile accolade is currently held by Ceratops. Now, I'm really not sure why this and the Pachyrhino have these shiny patches. Reminds me of a girl I used to go out with who just enjoyed putting glitter onto her skin. And anyway, when it comes to coloration, especially the keratinous structures, it's always a guess whether the actual model delivers the promise of the prototype images. Well, the horns themselves are very nicely painted. It's actually not too far off, but as expected, you lose some complexity in the actual model. For example, the horns here are missing that application of marigold orange. And if you look at the squamosal processes, they lack that living enamel look, which is a pity. And as for the frill, these eye spots are eye-catching indeed, but I wish the edges faded more subtly into the surrounding skin. Now, one thing I really loved about the prototype is this darker brown that outlines the mouth. And I love that some of it's here, not just around the mouth, but over the outlines of the rami of the frill. Though for the nostril area, mine is better blended on the right than the left. It's certainly unique, and I hope future Ceratopsians will all sport something of the same subdued aesthetic. Just look at all the texture in the jaw, the neck. And I like how the nostrils here bulge outwards, and you can imagine how this area would expand with each breath. Now guys, tell me if it's my imagination, but it seems like they changed the molding a bit because the scalation in the face and the squamosal look finer on the actual model than the bigger bumpiness you see in the images. Now my overall feel is that the head is very much of the same aesthetic as the PNSO Pachyrhino. Now color-wise, I'm delighted to see some hints of the baby in the adult. The green in the head has darkened, and I just love that the whole head, the whole face is essentially green. It's perfect proof that with the right texture and application of color, green doesn't have to be boring. There's still some green in the limbs and the flank, and faint reminders of the tail stripes. But otherwise, the adult coloration has definitely changed. Indeed, I would say that the PNSO Spinops is closer in color to the baby Sinoceratops. In general, detail and texture is excellent. Now going past the neck, notice these skin creases down the arms. They've given the limbs some scutes. And likewise, there are some scutes on the back. And over there, there's a wash that just makes them pop, but subtly. And I wish they'd done the same for the Machyrhoceratops. Now let's see the other side. Just look at the color transitions. So smooth. It's very similar to what they did on my beloved Pachyrhinosaurus. Just look at the posterior frill, the detail, then going down, the legs, the tail, the underside. I mean, this is just superb work. The body has the typical Centrosaurine form with the correct numbers of toes and nails as you'd expect. And just this pose, man, it's just really dynamic, like tossing his head in readiness, alertness, or surprise. The spread feet. It's just such a powerful creature and such a beautiful rendition. Now let's enjoy a look at the trio of PNSO Centrosaurines this year. Look at that, all showing that beautiful PNSO quality, with these two being very close in terms of color, texture, size and detail. And this one, a closer second. I have got a feeling that the same person worked on both the Pachyrhinosaurus and the Sinoceratops. You know, each major dinosaur bioplant has its own distinctive beauty, and having these Centrosaurines together is a wonderful showcase of their similarities and also their differences. I can't wait to see PNSO tackle some Chasmosaurines. I feel if they did a Triceratops at this scale, it would become the definitive mass-produced Triceratops in my collection. To end off, why has Sinoceratops kindled my interest in geography? Because it's the only Asian ceratopsid we know of. Now, Asia has had all the other major dinosaur groups, the Tyrannosaurs, the Hadrosaurs, the Pachycephalosaurs, the Ankylosaurs, and of course, the Sauropods, all except the Ceratopsians. Now, there's been speculation this was simply due to a limited dispersal and they never reached Asia. In fact, now with Sinoceratops, the authors of the 2010 paper postulate that based on their proposed phylogeny, Ceratopsians might very well have originated in Asia and then spread to eventually reach North America. And hopefully, we'll find more species. Meanwhile, I look forward to the next offering from PNSO. I do hope they spread out the Ceratopsians and Ankylosaurs a bit, to save some of them for later and also to add more variety to our collections. So let me know what you guys think of these wonderful Ceratopsians in the meantime. I am going to get a glass of water.